Hello again. I want to continue making the video about post war Germany. And then, of course, I'd quickly go into when I left for America. And also, the other questions that students ask is what should be learned from when somebody goes through a war? What would I tell other people about this? And there's much to talk about when it comes to this kind of a subject. But in my last video, I was telling you that it took quite a long time for German people to recover from something like what they went through. And the whole world, in a way, needed to recover because this war was an awful war. And so many people have lost their lives. And here we were, the German people, trying to rebuild our country and trying to show the world that we have become better and that we wanted to do better. So we were doing our best to change ourselves and make us world likable. But there was still so much unrest in my hometown in Berlin, the capital city, once capital city of Germany. And of course, when everything was divided, uh, the next capital city we had was Bonn, Germany, because the east part had their own and the west part had their own. But anyway, we were still the capital city of Germany, no matter what, where all the bad things have taken place. And it really took a long time to rebuild. There were elements at work that were unbelievable. The political side started to rear its ugly head, and they were taking different sides, different parties, different sides, different opinions. They were rubbing each other the wrong way. There could rioting be going on in Berlin because the East Berliners were having it bad, when the West Berliners really had it much better. And then when a difference of opinion arose, then they clashed. And it was troubled times. The police had to be called. And when it got a step further, then sometimes we had the standoff between the American and the Russian troops. They were really standing face to face, I should say, tank to tank. And when this happened, we never knew what could happen from that. Another war could break out, very easily. So when it didn't happen, when everything passed by and everything was smoothed over, no matter what it was, then all of us, ah, we were relieved that one more time it didn't happen. We could go on with our lives. We could try to do things better. But the German girls, a lot of them went with American soldiers, just like I did. I had a fiance and then I became a wife, and we had babies. We raised our family. I can say that the German boys really didn't like to see us German girls take up with an American soldier. So sometimes when I walk down the street with my husband, a a boy, a young man, would walk by me, give me a look, and then spit right in front of my feet. And I wore a wedding band. I mean, I was a married woman. One time it happened when my brothers were with me. Edgar had come from France and was visiting, and I called out to my brothers because it so surprised me, and I told him what happened. My brother turned around and grabbed this young man. And my brother was 6'4", worked in a coal mine, looked like Arnold Schwarzenegger. He had him up by the tie, up in the air, raised him off the ground, and said, "Don't you know what you're doing? My sister is a married woman. She has a family. And these soldiers that you see here in West Berlin, they have saved your life. Don't you ever let me catch you do something like that again to anyone. Most of all, not to my sister." So little incidents like that could happen in post-war Germany. That the German young men were jealous of the American soldier. For one thing, they seemed to have a little more money. And they were really jealous when a young girl was going on the arm of an American soldier. So the times were not exactly easy, but the worst part was the criminal element that you find in every big city. And even so that my town was divided, a lot of bad things could happen there. And the newspapers would write about it, the radio would announce it. It was Radio Free Europe, uh, the Free Station, Rias, and they would, of course, tell everything that was going on. And my mom and I, my dad, all of us, we would just shake our head and say, when will this settle down? When will all of us realize that we can live a better life, be better people, and not be onto each other all of the time? But between East and West, it was day and night or hell and heaven. And I was so fortunate that I lived on the side of heaven, which was the American side. Now, we were allowed in 1955 to get married, my husband and I then were married. And of course, we made plans to get me to America. He had to leave first, and I had to follow 6 months later. And there was still a lot of paperwork that needed to be done for me to leave and get over to America. My husband couldn't help me anymore, so other hands had to be my helper. And between the other hands, which was a general that got a hold of me and helped me to do certain things that I was unfamiliar with, and we got settled in, knowing, had the passport in hand, knowing I was going to America. And we had to say goodbye to my family, all of my family, aunts, uncles, cousins, most of them, my mom and dad, my brother Erwin in Berlin, and my brother Edgar was in France. I had said goodbye to him the last time we seen him when he visited Berlin for just a little while. So this was hard. But I got on this train, the LI train, and in the evening time with the music playing and my family standing outside, we drove out of that train station and I left everything that I had and knew and was familiar with behind to start a new life in America. It took 10 days, the ocean voyage. It took 10 days. And we had a rough time on the ocean also. There was a storm brewing, and it really made this great big ship that was larger than two football fields go back and forth and up and down. A lot of people were seasick, but I wasn't. I had two children to take care of. I had a young cabin friend. She had a 3-week-old baby. She didn't quite know what to do with her child. So I took care of my children and hers in a way. And we helped each other across the ocean. And when we got into New York Harbor, we went by the Statue of Liberty. And I saw it from my window, my porthole. I raised my babies up on my hips, my 3-year-old little son and my 1.5-year-old daughter, and said to them, "Look, children, we are home and we are free." They were too small to understand what I was saying to them. But I stood there looking out of that porthole, seeing the statue, and I knew I was home. And I knew it would be my forever home. And I cried. Grateful went over me from head to toe. And I just cried and thanked God for the fortune that a young American man fell in love with this German girl and brought her home to his family. I was welcomed with open arms. They were so happy with their grandbabies. They spoiled them rotten. They became little farmers. My son sang Davy Crockett when he learned English. And my little Linda, his sister, followed him around wherever he went. Both of them learned to speak English, nothing flat, right away. And I stopped speaking German to them because what I wanted them to learn, and when they went to school here, they needed to speak a perfect English. So, as you know, I kept my accent, but my children didn't. They lost at the accent immediately and became the American citizen that they needed to be, and they were when they were born because of their dad. The other question that is asked of me, besides how it was and when I came to America and how I felt about it, I just answered that. Utterly joyful, utterly grateful, so surprised by this large country, so wonderful to be welcomed. And within 3 years, I became a citizen. I didn't wait very long to get my citizenship so that I could also say, I am a proud American. And now, the other question that I was asked most of the time is, what lessons do you want young people to know about the war? Well, what can I say about that? I wish there wasn't any war for any one of us living in this world. But people are people, and they have issues. And for one reason, they sometimes do not try to get along, and they wind up fighting a war. War is the most horrible thing that anyone can go through, and it changes you never to be the same again. You grow up very early when you go through a war, like I did as a 6-year-old, but it changes you from the inside out. And I'm telling you, you're never the same again. You learn something from it. Either you shut yourself away from people and your insides turn hard because you don't trust anyone and you don't open yourself up to anyone anymore, and you live your life like that, being changed to that hard person. Or it's the total opposite, that this war and what you have seen and heard will teach you compassion and even love more than what you did before. Because we're all human beings, we all need a helping hand, and we need to be there for one another. But the best would be for this whole world to be peaceful and not ever have to experience a war. Here in America, I've been free for many years now because this country has done its best to avoid getting into trouble with other nations, and sometimes other nations that called for help, been given this help by this country. So America is there for everyone. But now we are in a time where we are learning also that we need to be there for each other. And we can only do this by sticking together, by working together, by watching who we elect into the upper offices, to support our braves that are fighting for our freedom, and really be the good Americans that we need to be. Grateful and happy to be Americans in a light in this otherwise dark world. Keep your freedom, fight for it if you have to, but at all possible, do everything in a peaceful nature. War is hell, and we do not want to live in hell. We'd like to have a little bit of heaven here on earth. And with this, I will close my video and say to you, thank you for listening to me, thank you for following me, and thank you for everything. And God bless you. God bless America.